Good afternoon, monsters. Starting a little bit late on the show today. Had some technical difficulties, and hopefully we got that all straightened out. We do have Nash Hoover here with us now, and it's going to be a great show. If my volume is a little loud, I apologize. Nash is having technical issues, so we're loud on his end. So that's because of that. So right off the bat, guys, thanks for watching Monsters on the Edge today. Go check out On the Trail of Undiscovered Beasts on Paraflix. You can use promo code CAPS10 to get 10% off your first 3 months over there. And you can go show your support for everything Wisconsin Caps does on our store. Go to wisconsincaps.com, click on Shop Our Store, and you can find all t-shirts and everything, stickers. You can put our logos on whatever you got. Go check that out. And while you're online, make sure you check out all of our social media platforms at Patreon, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. That's Wisconsin Caps, or WI Caps at Instagram. We got coming up in August here, we are going to be at the MI Paracon in Sault Ste. Marie. That is the middle to end of August. We are going to be at the Great Lakes Paranormal Convention in Glenbeulah, Wisconsin, September 22nd and the 24th. I'm going to be giving a presentation October 6th at the Kenosha Public Library. And we are going to be at CryptidCon November 18th and 19th. And that's what we got. I want to get through that stuff pretty quick here because we got our guest, and I have a couple last-minute housekeeping things here, guys. We want to thank you for supporting Monsters on the Edge and the Untold Radio Network. If you want to show your support even more for all the things we do here at the Untold Radio Network, head on over and check this out.
Hey, Untold Radio Network fans. Want exclusive perks and to support our channel? Introducing our YouTube membership program with 3 amazing levels. Get loyalty badges that level up to different cryptids the longer you're a supporter. How cool is that? You'll also get access to custom Bigfoot emojis and priority in chat. Upgrade to Backstage Pass for exclusive wallpapers, photos, status updates, discounted books, and merchandise. Go all in with the producer level for everything mentioned plus member shoutouts. Ready for an enhanced experience? Join now, pick your membership level, and let's make this journey even more exciting together.
All right, guys, my guest today on the show is Nash Hoover. He is the host and creator of Chasing Legends, and he has been researching cryptids and the unexplained ever since he was very young. With a knack for adventure and a passion for exploration, he isn't afraid to push himself and his team for the truth. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nash Hoover. Nash, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. Sorry, some bad technical difficulties on my end.
That's all right, man. We all have signal issues and problems, and it's just part of the show. Usually this only happens on paranormal shows. So have you been doing anything paranormal lately?
Unfortunately, no. You would think, given the issues, but
yeah, well, things happen. I mean, it's all part of the game. For people who aren't familiar with you, give us a little background of who you are and tell us about Chasing Legends.
Yeah, so my name is Nash Hoover. I've been into this, been researching cryptids since I was very young. Throughout high school, I had a passion for filmmaking, and I kind of decided to combine the 2 passions of cryptids and paranormal stuff with filmmaking. And in 2013, we created Chasing Legends and have been doing it ever since. And it follows myself and my cousin and crew. And we, each episode we investigate a different cryptid legend and kind of cover all the bases from cultural and biological, and really try to put ourselves in the shoes of the people that see these things to kind of have our own experiences and kind of see if we can come to any kind of conclusion on what we think one way or another, what it could or could not be.
Very cool. Where can people find Chasing Legends? Where are your documentaries?
We are currently exclusively on YouTube. You you can just search. I think you just search at Chasing Legends Official, and you find all the current episodes we have up.
Very cool. And you got several seasons out. How many you got out right now?
Just one. I mean, we've been putting out episodes since 2013, but we only have one of what we would call like a season. Put out shot 4 episodes, 4 consecutive episodes in 2020, and released them in 2021. And unfortunately, haven't done any more after that. But we are working on it. We're working on it. We're getting there.
I know you guys had some last time I spoke to you on one of my other shows. You were working on some pretty big stuff. Do you have anything coming up? Like what are you working on right now?
Nothing really, unfortunately. Life really got busy for all of us. I had a kid. I got married. My cousin got married. A couple other people in the crew got married. So we've all kind of had things come up that have kind of prevented us from, really making another good push at shooting. But things are starting to calm down for everybody. So I think we're going to finally, hopefully, get back out there and start shooting some new stuff.
Very cool. Awesome, man. So tell us some of the stuff that you guys have worked on so far. What was your first big investigation, and what was your first show that you guys put out?
So the first one we actually did was a ghost hunt, funny enough. And I mean, at the time we were dabbling in both. We were gonna cover both topics with the show, but then we eventually decided to go just the entirely cryptid route. But so we after, it was probably a month or so after we created the show, kind of the initial concept, we were like, okay, well, let's put this to a test. We got to make sure that this can work in theory and not just on paper. So we went to a local spot that we had all kind of been to at some point, and really kind of fits into that urban legend type thing where that's kind of how I heard about it, was people telling me, oh, you gotta go check out this area because all these things happen, and it's an old tunnel that's a part of a local park. And actually, coincidentally, I'm probably only a mile from there right now. We haven't really been able to kind of get a definitive of what it ever was. But yeah, it's probably I'd say it's a good 100 yards of just complete straight tunnel. But it has, on one side of it has all these kind of blocked up doorways. And at the time of filming, we could get into 2 of them, and they are a little even, same size, these kind of little, almost like rooms. But yeah, I was always told from people that had gone there that just weird stuff happened. And I had, like I said, I'd been there a few times prior to us filming and have had some kind of weird things. So we're like, whatever, let's just go try it. At the time, we had no intent of even releasing this episode. This was literally just a test episode. And I think we even called it a preview episode, in the opening. It was just kind of it was more for us than for anybody else. But then when we got there and started filming and investigating, we had a ton of stuff happen to where we were like, okay, we have to release this. Yeah, it started out innocently enough, and we kind of got there and talked about it, and it was 4 of us. It was myself, my cousin Michaela, and 2 best friends, JC and Patrick. JC and Michaela are still on the show. Patrick is not. And we split up. Like I said, there was two of these rooms that we could crawl into. And so JC and Patrick went to one, Michaela and I went to another, and we just kind of did separate kind of investigations and such. Michaela and I did some stuff with the spirit box. Patrick and JC just kind of asked some questions with various meters and whatnot. We definitely, we didn't have any of the tech that we have today. It was very, very minimal. I actually think we shot the episode on a Canon T3i DSLR camera and a GoPro. That's all we had. So everything was done with flashlights and, but I know Patrick and JC kind of reported some weird things happening on their end. And then Michaela was kind of saying that she felt like things were whispering to her. And she was hearing things that none of us were hearing. So fast forward to the end of it, we're kind of walking in a straight line. And unfortunately, our JC, who was doing our camera stuff, was in the front of the line. And I had heard a rock skip off the wall behind me while Michaela was standing behind me. So I was thinking she kicked it. So I turned around to look at her. Well, she's significantly shorter than I think you met her. So she's shorter than I am. So I look down at her. I can see where her shadow is. She's got tears coming down her face. And behind her is standing, I had to look up, is a shadow figure standing behind her. And, eventually kind of like, and it was, I know you ghost hunt. So it was one of those things where you could, there's dark, and then there's this thing that's darker than the darkness. Like you could see it, like there was a figure there, and then it disappeared. And she has no recollection of any of this to this day. Watching the episode, talking about it, like she has very little memory of what actually went down the whole time we were there. But I remember she didn't want to leave initially, and eventually we got her out, and then she was fine. So we cut that episode, and it was funny because we made like I put it on a DVD so we could watch it, on a TV, and I had like a decent surround sound system at the time in my house. And of course, we're hearing all these things that we didn't catch when we were editing it. So that kind of sucked. But there was, pretty much from the moment we got into the tunnel, we were having things, happening. And so we watched it. We're like, people need to see this. This is interesting. This is cool. Like stuff's happening. Like, yeah, it's not the best in a production value sense, but it's interesting. So we released that shortly after that, and then been putting stuff out ever since.
Very cool. I feel like right now there's a kind of like a shift in the entertainment world of what people are interested in watching. We've had like ghost hunters and finding Bigfoot and stuff like pushed on us from these big production companies as these reality TV shows. And from investigator standpoint, from the people who are out there doing it and researching this stuff, they cut so much out to tell their story and make these shows. And I think a lot of the people probably like me and you would rather watch the full 3 hours of sitting in the dark and talking to these things, the more realistic of what actually is, because there's stuff that, is cut out of shows because they don't think it matters or that they miss. And there's just so much more. And I feel like more and more people are watching stuff like your show, like my show, like Hellbent Holler, like these shows that are just people going out and filming what they're doing.
Yeah, that's one thing that we early on we wanted to make sure we captured. Like we wanted it to look good, but we wanted it to be rougher on the edges. We wanted it to show the process because we wanted it to be interesting to people like us that are into this topic, but also understandable, digestible to the people that are just maybe kind of dipping a toe into this stuff. We wanted to make it entertaining for anybody. And, but yeah, we've always made sure that we show, the highs and lows when things go wrong. And, we're never afraid to say, if, nothing, we don't have absolutely no activity, we're not afraid to say, okay, well, nothing happened. Not, and then we'll say, we're not saying that there's nothing here. We just didn't have, anything happen to us.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people like our earlier episodes of Caps, say well, this is really, you filmed it with GoPros and stuff, and it looks really, unprofessional or whatever. We didn't go out to film it as a professional TV show.
Yeah.
We went out to do research and document. And I think that's more important than trying to put on a show. Since my guys have started doing more with Paraflix and bigger stuff, we have our own camera operator now that kind of follows us around as well. But for the most part, I mean, we're not there to film a show. We're there to do the research and do the work. And if you want to watch what we did, by all means, watch our show. And I think that's more important than these, super televised things that are going on right now.
Yeah, up until 2018, we did all the camera work just within the team. And then 2018 on, now we actually have people that are specifically on the team as crew. That's just their job. I mean, but they still are participate in the investigations. They're still on camera with the rest of us, but they're there specifically just to document us. So that way we can kind of more focus on the investigation stuff and the research stuff, and we're not also having to shoot ourselves, which is nice. It's freeing. But then you also kind of get outside perspectives too, because our camera guy is a hardcore skeptic, but I'm never afraid to put him on the spot and be like, okay, what do you think? What do you think about this from an outside? And it's just great because you just get that much more, discussion and conversation.
Absolutely. You hear that from some of the other bigger productions too, Expedition Bigfoot, and even back in the Finding Bigfoot days. Cliff and those guys talk about their whole crew was, based on doing these reality shows and gold mining shows and stuff like that. And they had nothing to do with Bigfoot, nothing to do with Animal Planet at all. And they were just assigned to film this. And when you have these skeptical, non-believer people out there in the field experiencing the same stuff that you're experiencing and seeing it, and they're unable to come up with answers explanations, it adds a lot of validity to the show, because now they're filming from the point of, wait a minute, I need to capture this, and they're more motivated to get those shots and document this stuff for you.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%.
Very cool. So what else have you guys done? I know that you have done Champ, you have done the Rougarou, and you have worked on the Pakwaji. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I think that's one of the creatures and stuff that doesn't get a lot of recognition, or a lot of, you don't see it on the mainstream shows and stuff. So can you tell us a little bit about where that was and the story behind it?
Yeah, so the Pakwaji is a Wampanoag legend from East Coast. We went to Massachusetts specifically. And that's actually one that we had on our list for pretty much since the beginning. So when we created the show, it was myself and my friend Caitlin Keeley, who actually lived out there. And originally, when we designed we created the show, was for her and I to host. But given that I lived in Minnesota, she lived in Massachusetts, it was just impossible for her to come out and film with us. So that's why I always was just hosting by myself. And then eventually our plan was to get her on camera with us more, which unfortunately just never happened. So she's actually one that told us about that. And that was always one that we were supposed to kind of do, we were going to go out there and do. And it just didn't happen with when she was around. Now she lives in Ireland. So that was kind of always in my back pocket. And we knew, okay, well, we had contacts we could reach out to, and, we had people in the area and we were familiar with it. So that's kind of when we started shooting our season 1. I'm putting in air quotes because it's, I don't know. I'll explain later. We knew that would be an easy one for us to start, and we could do it pretty cheaply. So we flew out there. I think we shot that literally in 2 days, day and a half actually. But yeah, it's like it's a Wampanoag legend. It's a little person. It's like a trickster spirit. They're described as, wielding bows and arrows and spears, and kind of being almost like a Native American spirit in a sense. but they're like kind of feared they're feared, but they can be, I don't know. It's a weird one, but there's a lot of stories that they kind of they'll lure people to their deaths. And there's actually there's a cliff the area we're in the Freetown Fall River State Forest. It's called the Sonnet Ledge, and it's this big kind of like cliff overhang, and there's a small pond lake underneath it, and people go cliff diving and stuff off of it. But there's always these stories that there's been people out there that will be out there just hanging out. They'll be of right sound mind, and then all of a sudden they'll just jump off the cliff and die. And so there's always kind of that connection, at least in the urban legend sense, that they were compelled by these Pakwajis to kind of leap off and kill themselves. And we talked to some people that had people report stuff to them where they were out walking and saw these little people and kind of were trying to they were gesturing them to kind of follow them into the woods, and they were kind of able to break the spell and kind of just keep walking and not follow them in. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. And I've even had a few people come up to me and say that they have similar legends kind of all throughout the country, and they even kind of still dub it a Pakwaji, even though it wouldn't be in the kind of cultural sense, but they've kind of just associated with that because that's kind of the closest thing that they can kind of think of.
It seems very fairy lore, the being lured into the woods kind of.
But I mean, all these different cultures have little people legends, and so I think it's it's just another one of those, but it just kind of has this darker twist to it because you have this whole area of. But I mean, that whole region we were in has its own dark history with mob murders and kind of some occultist stuff, and so there's no shortage of just kind of dark stuff happening in that area. That we kind of almost feel like the Pakwaji is just more of a kind of a fun spin on some of the darkness, even though it is a legitimate cultural legend in the local Wampanoag, but it seems kind of commercially and modernly, it's pop culturally, it's kind of how it's kind of survived.
So this is another legend, like you said, that's been, you have the local legend where it has this name, the Pakwaji, and that, but same as Bigfoot and, the sea serpent creatures and stuff, you have it all over the United States, all over the world, these same very similar stories and legends. Do you think that these things, let's talk about some of the stuff that happened down in Kentucky with the Goblins, the ones that came out of the coal mine and harassed those the guy in the house. Are you familiar with that story?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Kentucky Goblins down there and stuff. Do you think that these things could be the same creatures, just as a different name and a little bit different story, or do you think that they're completely different?
I think they might be completely different. I don't know. It's based on kind of descriptions too, because I mean, Pakwajis are often described as almost looking like porcupine-ish, like they, like if you ever seen that movie The Village, they're kind of described almost as those things, but small. It's possible. I mean, I don't know. I don't really look too much into the little people stuff. I mean, I guess I do, but I do more individually rather than trying to look at it as a whole, just because there is just such wide varying descriptions of these things. But yeah, it's not impossible, I guess.
So this, do you know, like you said, this was original Wampano legend. Does this predate them, or was it something that came over with the white settlers and the Irish immigrants, or any of the European stuff?
I guess we were never looked into that. From what I understand, it's a Wampanoag legend, but if it goes past, or if it goes farther into the past before them, I don't know.
Okay. Because we know there's a lot of fairy lore and these little people and stuff that comes over from Europe, and the fairy lands and the the gnomes, the trolls, the all that stuff, the fairies from over there, and a lot of that legend and lore came over with the immigrants. And it's believed that these creatures, spirits, entities, whatever they are, came over on the boats and with these settlers to the new land. And so I'm just kind of curious, were these things that, people are seeing, experiencing, and so on, were they here prior to all this as the native tribes and stuff depict, or was it something that came over with them?
Yeah, I think that could be said with some of the legends within like the New England area specifically, just because of all that. Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. Because like I've been to Ireland looking into other little people stuff, so it's definitely not outside the realm of possibility, because of that seems to be where a lot of this stuff is more prominent.
Absolutely. Is there a lot of cave systems or mines and stuff in the area where you guys were?
Not that we know of. It's possible, but I mean, it wasn't really like mountainy. There was just like kind of that rocky kind of cliff that just and literally, if you went there, like you wouldn't think it's there, and then you kind of come up to it out of nowhere, and it's very unique, kind of to the geology of the overall area.
Very interesting. I know there's also been some theories and stuff that these creatures are from underground, and they were, dwelling down there, and that's why we don't find them a lot, because when you have the mines and that have gone in and dug these systems up, they've, opened up these tunnel systems or what have you down there, that's where these things are coming from, especially down in the Kentucky area and that, because that was a lot of coal mining area. So
yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. Well, let's shift gears here a little bit, and let's talk about one of your favorite cryptids, the thylacine.
Yeah.
There we go. So there's been a lot of stuff in recent news in that the Colossal Bioscience company is working on basically bringing back these creatures with the Genome Project, and I think that they have. I think I just read that they actually have the full genome for the thylacine now, that they got that from one of the specimens from a museum. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they got a full DNA sequence, so it's a matter of time. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a lot of trial and error to make it actually a proper embryo and to actually get it to be, a final product. But yeah, they're close. I mean, I still believe that there's some running around, but if that's where you want to put your money, then sure.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of sightings down in Australia and more so in Tasmania, I hear.
Yeah, I've got a few contacts in Tasmania that regularly kind of send me stuff, and yeah, it's definitely interesting, because I mean, it seems like that out of all of the extinct animals of the world, that have been within the last 100 or so years, that seems to be the one that gets seen the most. So, I mean, I know the protocol to deeming an animal extinct is very inexact. So who really knows? But yeah, I think it's definitely more plausible than impossible that there's some. I think Papua New Guinea is probably a better possibility for some of them still being live, just because it's so unexplored. It's so remote. There's no like major roads or highways or anything to get around New Guinea or Papua New Guinea. So, and you have a lot of stories coming from the more inland villages and stuff that talk about sightings of striped dogs and this and that. So yeah, I think the island of New Guinea and Tasmania definitely have a lot of possibility. I mean, I'm sure there could be some on mainland Australia, but I think that's less likely given the more populous of the areas. But yeah, I'm hopeful. I know I definitely want to get out there and do my own, but definitely not a quick trip.
Yeah. We are going to take a really quick minute break here, and we will be back with more with Nash Hoover. And if you guys have any questions for Nash about anything that we talked about the Rougarou or Bigfoot or sea serpents and Champ, all that kind of stuff, he's done all that. So we'll be right back after this quick break.
Show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
Shout out for you, Nash, from the Central Florida Bigfooter. He says he's going to try and watch during the show. I've seen him down there in the comments, so he's here checking you out. And also, Bigfoot Society says he's
Jeremiah.
waiting for you at the Van Meter Visitor Festival, looks like. VMV.
Yeah, what's up, table bud?
All right, guys, if you guys have any questions, make sure you put them in the comments. The best way to get my attention, put them in all caps. As I said, Nash has been all over the U.S. and chasing things. And didn't you done one outside the U.S., right? I keep trying to remember that.
Yeah, it's only one.
Where was that? What were you looking for?
We went to Ireland looking for a Celtic legend known as the Puka.
Okay.
So it's another kind of trickster little person legend, but that one is like way more on the folkloric side than anything like physical. But yeah, that was a fun one. We spent like 8 days in Ireland.
Very cool. You seem to look for a lot of little weird legend creatures.
I like the lesser known stuff. That's where the good stuff's at.
Everybody's out here in the woods looking for the giant 10-foot tall gorilla man creature, and you're looking for the little 2-foot tall fairies, sprites, and elves, and and so on. I think you've made it a little more difficult on yourself there.
I like the challenge.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Champ, because you guys did a whole episode on that as well. Tell us about what. For one, tell us a little bit about Champ, and then what you guys found out there.
Yeah, so the Lake Champlain monster, known as Champ, it's an aquatic, a potentially aquatic creature living within Lake Champlain, which borders Vermont, New York, and actually goes up into Quebec. Yeah, that's an awesome one. I mean, that's like, that's right up there with what you would actually kind of consider like America's Loch Ness, because that lake gets up to, I think it's upwards to 420 feet that they know of. There's a legit mountain range in the middle of the lake that has, potential caves that have never been properly explored. I mean, there's been way more credible sightings of Champ than I would say that there has been of Loch Ness even. That have not been figured out, and by some very prominent people that even like we spoke to, that are like, I know this lake like the back of my hand, and what I saw is not supposed to be here, like that type of stuff. There's a lot of varying descriptions of Champ. There's obviously like the plesiosaur, which kind of gained prominence from the Sandra Mancy photo, but then it seems like there's been a lot, at least like recently, within the last probably 10, 20 years or so, have been a lot of sightings that almost describe it as like very turtle-like. And that's kind of, after our visit out there, that's kind of where my theory of what it could be kind of leaned towards, just because of, there's people that say they've seen it on land, or in, more shallow waters. And the guy that we talked to that, is a very prominent, expert of the lake, very, very knowledgeable of what should be above and below. When he saw it, he said it was literally like, it looked like an overturned boat, and it just like sunk. And you look at some of the other video footage of it, and it's that hard shell with a kind of a shorter neck, And there's the famous, what's it called? The Odette film that they've never released the full footage of because some lawyer owns it and wants 10 grand for it. They've released like small, very short clips of it, but what you can see in the clips, it almost does look like some sort of shell head kind of swimming underneath a boat. That's probably the best footage that's ever been recorded of Champ, but they'll never release it unless somebody pays this guy an absurd amount of money for, however long this clip is. A good buddy of mine, Carrick St. Lorraine, actually has been, Carrick St. Whatever. I think I just mispronounced his last name. Carrick, I love you. He has a very French last name. He actually put out a documentary called Release the Bodette Film, and it's very good. I definitely suggest everybody check that out. But he very much is pushing for the release of this because it should be public knowledge. Like, this is probably definitive proof that there is what everyone kind of thinks is living out there. But this guy obviously knows what he has and doesn't want to give it up. But yeah, I mean, that was a nightmare of the shoot was fun. The investigation did not go well because we were supposed to have boats, had issues with the boats. And the people we were supposed to get the boats from were like, well, we have these kayaks. So we're like, yeah, why not? Let's go look for, a lake monster in the middle of the night in a 400 plus foot lake in the middle of the night in kayak. So yeah, that was with all of our equipment, mind you. So that was fun trying to shoot and paddle and kind of stay in one point. But at least we got on the water. And we got on a boat during the day and got a good tour of the lake. Didn't see anything. But yeah, that lake, it's like, I'd always dreamed of going out there. But then when I actually was on the shore, I was like, okay, I was not expecting this. It's just huge.
I got a couple questions here for you. Jack would like to know, several years ago, you did a cool video of the ghost of Hell's Tunnel. I think that was what you were talking about at the beginning. Do you still pursue otherworldly things outside of cryptids?
I definitely read into it. I haven't been on a ghost hunt in many years. The ghost hunting community is not the friendliest. So I kind of distanced myself from there, but then I kind of just got bored ghost hunting. I definitely think it's interesting, and I'm not against getting back into it in some capacity, but I just don't like doing traditional ghost hunts. It's got to be stuff similar to Hell's Tunnel where we have to hike into somewhere, and you have the issues of having to deal with outside contamination and stuff like that nature. But yeah, it's definitely not. I'm definitely not against it. I just don't think we would pursue that again with Chasing Legends.
Very good. Sasquatch Wizard. Oh my God, Adirondack. I think that's what that is. Nash, my grandma Dot said that she had seen Champ. She lives on the Vermont side of Champlain, across from Crown Point area. I spent time with grandma when I was 5 or 6, but he hasn't seen it.
Nice. Yeah. That was the first investigation that we did for the show, and it still holds true to this date, where everybody we talked to, whether we were planning to talk to them or if it was just a stranger that we just kind of ran into in town, that either the person we were speaking to had a sighting or a story, or they knew somebody directly that had a sighting or a story. Everybody we talked to, the whole 5 days we were there. It's insane. So that just as all the days went by and the more people we talked to, it just really clicked with me. Okay, there is something here. So yeah, I think that's one out of the 4 that we did recently that I want to for sure get back out to and do a larger investigation to, and actually get out on a proper boat to get to these hotspot areas to properly investigate.
You're saying that a canoe is not a proper boat?
Not in this instance. Not if, well, I mean, in the terms of being stealthy, yes, but when you actually are wanting to get to areas where you need to, yeah, it wasn't great.
You just got to get to the gym and work on those rowing machines,
Well, especially when like my sound guy is like in the canoe with his full like audio pack, and then he's trying to paddle while also like operating a camera. Yeah.
I can imagine, man. I've been in similar situations. Things just don't go right. I mean, I love, you and me both are both fans of Josh Gates. And I mean, you watch any of his shows, it's like, okay, we're gonna rent a car. That car is gonna break down. It's just the theme of the show. So,
well, Destination Truth was probably like the main kind of framework for what we wanted to go with, because I love the way they did that. I love that it was like entertaining, but like super informative. But then I loved like the crew input. So that's kind of what I wanted Chasing Legends to be like. But then obviously give it our own spin rather than doing a complete ripoff. But yeah, I love the way that they did that. I loved, yeah, they showed everything that goes into this, and it was almost a behind the scenes thing with good interviews and investigations.
Absolutely. Well, we got a late start today. We are almost out of time here. I want to make sure that anybody that has any questions for Nash, you can go ahead and throw them in the comments now before we wrap up here. Nash, you said, what are you working on? What do you hope to get done this year now that you got, starting to calm down and get a little more free time?
Definitely hoping to start shooting some new episodes. We have a few, we had big plans. We have been working with a company to try and get it in a network or a streaming platform connection, basically to kind of get us a good chunk of money to do this the way that we want to do it and actually go to make it international and go to these, really cool places and cover these greater stories. And it's just hasn't, unfortunately, been looking like it's going to work out for us. Still hopeful, fingers crossed. But if it doesn't work out end of the summer, we have plans to kind of do some stuff within the Midwest to start getting some episodes out again. And then we'll probably look more into next year doing better, proper shoots again. But we're hoping to get at least one out this year, if not two.
Well, you definitely don't have a small supply of legends and creatures and stuff to look for, even just in Minnesota and Wisconsin right here. There's tons of lake monsters and stories and cryptids and dogmen and Bigfoot and everything right here. So
yeah, and we have a few that we've kind of sat on for a while because we're like, is it worth it? Do we want to put a lot of this time into? But they're good enough stories where we can make good, and that's my whole thing. Like I'll shoot I'll do an episode on any topic as long as there's a good story along with it. And, I'm not the person that's just going to go shoot something to shoot content. Mm-hmm. And that's just kind of why we haven't put out anything really new, because it's like, I've set a standard for myself now that I feel like I have to personally meet. So that's kind of where we're at, but yeah, we're going to, one way or another, we're getting some new stuff out soon.
Awesome. I hope so, man. It's been quite a while since we got to see some cool stuff from you, and awesome job so far. And I look forward to what you got coming in the future. And
thanks. I really appreciate it.
Hopefully we get a chance to go out and do something together too sometime.
Yes, we have to make sure that happens.
Yeah. We had talked about it last episode, going down to Puerto Rico and chupacabra hunting. And
yeah, that's right.
Out and I'm like, well, if this is going to happen, I need to get my, what the hell is this called? Passport. And then
no, you don't need a passport for Puerto Rico.
I know, it dawned on me that after I got the passport, I'm like, no, I don't need a passport to go to Puerto Rico. So, we'll save that for the thylacine.
There you go.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out today. And unfortunately, with all the technical issues and stuff, we still got a chance to talk. And that's awesome.
Yeah, that's my bad. It's kind of just working with the circumstances here.
Yeah, you do what you got to do, man. So
I'm glad we got on at least. So
yeah, me too. Tell everybody, where can they find you? Where can they find all the stuff about Chasing Legends, all your social media, and where they can follow up for more updates?
So I recently had to change all of our social media handles because our Instagram got hacked and deleted. So everything is now at Chasing Legends Official. You can search that. That'll find us on Instagram, Facebook, and the YouTube. Or you can go to chasinglegendscrew.com, and that'll have all the direct links to everything. And then all of our episodes are on there as well. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. You can find me on Instagram at Nash Hoover, all one word. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to message me on anywhere, and I'll gladly get back to you. And thanks again for having me.
Very cool. Do you have any in-person stuff coming up? Are you going to be at Van Meter?
I will be at Van Meter. That's all I have. It's usually all I have. Yep, I'll be at Van Meter manning a Jeremiah from Bigfoot Society, and I will be sharing a table. So if you come to see him, you're gonna be forced to see me as well. So hopefully I don't scare anybody away from Jeremiah. But yeah, so you have that'll be a good table. It's gonna be a lot of good knowledge between Jeremiah and I to share and chat. And Jeremiah and I love talking with people about all this stuff. So it's gonna be a good time. But Van Meter Visitor Festival, Van Meter, Iowa, September 29th. So last Saturday of September. I think it's the 29th. That's a great festival. It's one day. It's a really great time. Unfortunately, I'll have to see Chad Lewis, but whatever.
The 30th. It's the 30th.
30th.
Close enough. September 30th.
I will be there the 29th, but yes, it's the 30th.
Awesome. All right, Nash. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me and rolling with the issues.
All right, man. Maybe I'll see you at Van Meter. Until then, though, I'll see you out there, okay?
Thanks, bud.
All right, guys, that is it for this show. Thank you so much for staying tuned, and sorry about the late start today for our live event. Sometimes that's just the way it happens. And so cool that we got Nash on the show today and got to catch up with him. And guys, coming up next week, we have RPG on the show. RPG is famous for, he was on Finding Bigfoot originally, and not on, but part of that crew. And he was also the original cast member on Expedition Bigfoot. So guys, that's coming up next week. And until next time, I'll see you out there.